The information in this recording is general in nature and should not be considered personal advice. Please consult a professional and qualified financial advisor to discuss how this information may apply to your personal circumstances. Thanks for listening. Hi, it's Dane here from Own Financial Planning, and joining me today is Kathryn Fantov, owner of Sydney Vendor Advocates. Hi, Kathryn.
Hi, Dane. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Could you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I am a licensed real estate agent. I've been in the industry my entire career. Um, I've had experience in all aspects from selling residential property all the way through to commercial property. My husband and I, our owner built two homes ourselves, so I have quite a lot of experience with renovations and building. We've also sold 5 of our own properties over the years, so I've got a pretty good background in regards to selling real estate. I started this business because I became disillusioned with where the industry was basically heading when I was an agent. I could tell you a lot of stories about agents and even principals of owners of businesses who were doing dodgy things behind the backs of the vendors, and I got to a stage where I just didn't want to be involved in that with that in anymore, and I was looking for something else. So when I found the concept of a vendor advocate in Melbourne about 11 years ago, I felt, well, this is exactly what I'm after, because it gives me the opportunity to use the experience that I've had in the industry and I've got to actually make a positive difference to people when they're selling their home. So trust is a big core value of mine, and I feel as though it's something that's lacking desperately from the industry. So that's why I started this business and became a vendor advocate.
Wonderful, and so thanks for sharing that. And when we first crossed paths, I admitted I hadn't been familiar with vendor advocacy as a service. So, are you able to kind of tell the listeners a little bit about what is a vendor's advocate and how do you typically help homeowners?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the most important thing that your listeners will be interested to know is that engaging a vendor advocate actually costs you nothing extra. A lot of people think, well, it's just going to
Like
cost me
that.
more money. Why would I do that? And in fact, it doesn't. And people are probably thinking, well, that all sounds too good to be true, but it's actually as good as it sounds. And I will go into that in a lot more detail towards the end of the presentation. But I just wanted to touch on that to start with. So what we do is we help people with preparing their property for sale and choosing the real estate agent. And those two aspects are critical components of how to maximize the sale price. So you need to spend the time with the preparation of the property, doing any upgrades, presenting the property in its best light. That could be property styling, all that type of thing. So we spend a fair bit of time in that process. And once that's done, then we help to choose the agent. And again, I'll go into all of that in a lot more detail. We also protect people from underselling their property, and that's could be potentially because the agent may be pressuring them into accepting an offer that they is lower than what the agent actually originally told them that they could get for the property. That seems to be happening quite a lot lately. So we keep the agent honest, we keep them accountable, and we're basically there to hold their hand, provide expert advice and support throughout the whole process. And also we have access to a team of tradespeople and professionals, such as lawyers, accountants, financial planners, who can assist if the people need referrals to these industries.
Right. And who do you typically work with?
So we work with a whole gambit of people who are selling. So time poor professionals who are focusing more on their work or their kids. They don't have the time to think about selling their home, especially preparing the home. That's a big aspect that takes a lot of time. Elderlies who are downsizing, elderly people who are downsizing, deceased estates also is a big one, divorce as well. People who have investment properties, they may live interstate or even overseas, and inexperienced first-time sellers. And then there's people who just don't trust agents and just don't want to have the hassle of dealing with them. So they're a big part of our market as well.
Sure, sure. So let's say I'm a homeowner. I'm wanting to sell my home. Talk us through what a typical process would look like working with you.
Okay. So the first step is the planning and the preparation phase. So the first thing I would do is I would come to the property and I would do a thorough walk around and inspection going room to room, and I would write up everything that needs to be done to the home to help maximize the sale price. The next thing we look at then is organizing quotes to get that work done. We then work out, okay, which of these things can we afford to do? Which do we want to do? Which do we need to do? And once we've worked all that out, then I put together a timeline. And the timeline will include everything from, when the painting will start, when the gardening needs to be done by, when we conduct the agent interviews, when is the first open house, when's the photo shoot. So it's all very comprehensive. And I find that helps to gives people a lot more confidence moving forward and keeps them kind of on track as to, when everything is going to be happening. Also, we give a independent assessment of what we think that the property is worth. And that comes in very handy when we're interviewing agents and we work out, okay, which agents are just trying to buy the business by giving us an overinflated estimate of the value. We organise pest and building reports. I like to get that done up front so that we can address any issues that may come up and have them fixed. Because the last thing you want to be doing is during the campaign is backpedaling when someone's made you an offer subject to a building and pest. They find out there's an issue and then they want to reduce their offer. So that's something that we're very proactive with. We want to be on the front foot. And we also help you decide on the best method of sale, whether it's private treaty, whether it's auction, expressions of interest, that type of thing. So here is just a couple of before and afters that we've done. This was a young family that were upsizing. They really didn't have the time or the know-how to know where to start, what to do. So we went in, we got them to repaint, changed the beige walls to white, and then we had the property styled, and makes obviously a massive difference to the presentation. This one was a couple who were downsizing. We organised for them to get some storage for them to store their furniture. They were happy to bring in more contemporary, more modern furniture. Helps people to become more emotionally attached to the property when the buyers come in. They like to visualise themselves living there. And this was a young family who were, again, time poor. They were corporate people, had a couple of young kids, but it just goes to show the difference that having, the bulky furniture might be nice and comfy when you're watching TV, but as far as styling and presenting the property, it's much better to have lighter furniture to make the room more spacious. So that's something that we spend a fair bit of time organising. The next stage is then choosing the agent. This is an area where a lot of people do not spend enough time with their due diligence or doing their research to find out, okay, which 3 agents should we interview? It should always be 3, and that's what we do. So we put forward a list of 3 agents for the client to review and approve, and we conduct those interviews ourselves at the property. The client can be present as well if they want to, but I find that most people don't want to be there. And we also find that when the vendor is not present, the agent is a lot more forthcoming, a lot more open and relaxed, and a lot more, I can delve a lot deeper into their strategy and their process. And that's what I'm all about, is process. I'm very process driven. Each stage has a process. And so once we've conducted the agent interviews, we put together a report. It's about 5 pages long, so it's very detailed. And then we have a recommendation at the end of which agent we think is going to do the best job. Then we negotiate the commission. So once we've chosen the best agent, then we look at negotiating the commission, making sure that the client is paying a fair and reasonable commission, not too high, not too low, because ultimately you do get what you pay for. And then the agency agreement, the marketing costs as well. We look into that and making sure we're spending money on things that we need and not on things that we don't. I just wanted to touch on this as well, which is a lot of agents actually, when they're coming to meet with a vendor, they will offer an off-market strategy as a way of trying to get you to sign up with them, because it's less upfront costs for them. It looks very attractive for vendors that if we can sell the property without fully going to market, then why not? So depending on the situation of the vendor, it can be a good option, but it does depend on the market, the conditions in the market. So if, let's say, the agent has a database, of tens of thousands of people, well, that's fine, but usually there would only probably be a small portion of those that would be interested in a property like that. So let's just say they had 6 or 7 people that they showed through. You might get a couple of those, maybe 2 or 3 if you're lucky, that may be interested in buying the property at the price that the owner's looking for. And if they are, then why wouldn't you put it out to the full market and then get at least double that amount of people interested and competing for the property? So it does depend on the situation, but my word of warning is just to be aware of agents that use this as a way of getting you to sign up with them, because it usually only lasts a couple of weeks before they've exhausted all their options with buyers. And then they just want to put you into a full campaign anyway, where you have to pay the full marketing and everything. So it's just something to think about. And then the last stage is the sale process. So that's where we work together very closely with the agent. We strategize on the right approach with the agent. We make sure we get the pricing correct from the start. And if we're not getting the results or the people through, then we look at, okay, what's not working? What do we need to change? So we're very proactive. The clients will get a couple of written reports a week. And more importantly, we're keeping their best interests at the forefront with the agent at all times. So making sure that the agent knows who they're working for, or remembers who they're working for, especially when they're negotiating between a buyer and a seller. Sometimes when they're dealing directly with a seller, they can try to get the seller to come down more than they're trying to get the buyer to come up. So that's why having us in the middle helps to create that buffer, prevents that pressure on the vendor, and keeps the agent, accountable. And then by their side on auction day, helping set the reserve price, all that type of thing, if we're selling by the auction method.
So looks like incredibly value-adding process for the vendor. And you mentioned earlier in the presentation that all of this comes at no additional cost to the vendor. So how do you get paid? What's your commercial outcome in these situations?
Yeah, so good question. So we have a commission share agreement that is between us and the real estate agent. The vendor also gets a copy of this. So we're basically sharing in the one commission that is paid to the agent. It's a bit like a conjunction fee or a referral style fee. But we still, even though we are sharing in the agent's commission, we still do make sure that we negotiate the agent's commission to make sure that the client who is their best interests are at the forefront to make sure that they're not overpaying, even having us involved. So the reality is that having us working together with the agent actually allows the agent to focus 100% on the buyers, on the marketing of the property. They don't have to worry about spending time. They call it vendor management. That's what I take care of the whole process. So it does free up the agent's time a lot. So that's why they're more than happy to share in the commission with us. And they see it as an opportunity to create an ongoing relationship for future opportunities. So if they do a good job with us this time for this client, then next time we have a property in the area, then we will consider them as one of the 3 agents again. So so it's really a win-win actually for everybody involved.
Yeah, it certainly sounds that way, and particularly from the perspective of the vendor, that not having to front up any additional costs with your expertise in being able to maximize the value of sale, and I'd say even more important from that, from the perspective of the vendor, significantly minimize the stress that's involved in these transactions. They don't come up often for most people.
Yeah.
But essentially, the proof's in the pudding. Are you able to share with us some of the success stories that you've had with your clients?
Sure.
Excellent.
So this lady was she went into a nursing home. She had no family, and so she didn't have anyone to help her with the preparation of the property. And basically, I went in there and yeah, I took her back a few times to the house because she left a few things. She wasn't sure, she couldn't fit everything that she wanted to take with her. So we went back a few times and she grabbed the books and things that she needed. But from there on, I had to clear out the property, get it, looking its best. And the end result was incredible. It was 215,000 above the reserve. So you can imagine how excited she was. We also had the Sydney Morning Herald there at that auction. So that was an incredible result. This is a couple that we helped who were looking to downsize, and they wanted mostly help with the agent selection process. They'd already met with a few agents and they were confused. They didn't want to make the wrong decision. So that's where I went in and I took care of that whole process, and basically supported them through the whole campaign. And we got an excellent 3.5 million was a price that that I remember they had said at the start. Wow, 3.5 would be incredible. If we could get that, we would be so ecstatic. And we got it. And so yeah, it was an incredible result. That was sold on the day of auction. And this one was a family who were moving into a retirement village. And yeah, that was a big job for them. They'd been living in the house that he actually built the house. So they'd been living there for almost 40 years. And we got 64,000 above the reserve. So that was an excellent result for them.
Fantastic. So, if our listeners are contemplating selling their home and they want to sort of maximize the value of sale and obviously eliminate a lot of the stress involved in dealing with agents and negotiating and whatnot, how can they get in touch with you?
So here I've put my email address, so they can either reach me by email. They can just simply Google Sydney Vendor Advocates or look up our website address. And there's my phone number as well. So very happy to speak to anyone who wants to find out more. Areas that we service, so predominantly the Sydney metropolitan area and the immediate surrounds. So we've been up to Blue Mountains. We've been Central Coast. We've done Central Coast before, but more as a hybrid version of what we do, and down to Wollongong as well. So if anybody needs any help or has any properties that they're thinking of selling, I'd be very happy to have a chat.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kathryn. And obviously selling your home is a major life decision. And if you would like to sort of discuss how these strategies can work towards helping towards your long-term goals, you can contact us at www.ownfinancialplanning.com.au. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for having me, Dane.
Thanks, Kathryn.